Up to $20,000 fines in Victoria. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Got my stein of coffee. I think you'll need yours too for this article as we look at some of the fines that could be handed down in Victoria now that there's the, stage 4 lockdowns. So they roll out $5,000 fines for breaching the lockdown. Victorians who failed to self-isolate will now face on-the-spot fines of almost $5,000, and repeat offenders could cop a maximum penalty of $20,000. So it looks like it's only in certain circumstances. Although, we'll have to see. If you breach the 5-kilometre rule, will they say that you're failing to self-isolate? You've been directed to stay at home. Will the PSOs marching up the street start handing out $5,000 to people left, right and centre? The Victorian Premier, Daniel Andrews, has announced people who fail to self-isolate will now face on-the-spot fines of almost $5,000 and a maximum penalty of $20,000. Mr. Andrews said in addition to existing on-the-spot penalties for breaching the directions of the Chief Health Officer, a new on-the-spot penalty of $4,957 would be rolled out for people who fail to self-isolate when directed to. So you essentially sent house arrest. The Chief Health Officer has that power, everyone. Has that power. But then there's other arguments that the Human Rights Commission they can't stop you from exercising. So could that be used to counter this? What if you were directed to self-isolate, but then you went out to exercise and took measures to mitigate your risk of infecting others, if you have the illness, or if you're waiting on your test? That would be interesting to see what the outcome of that would be to be tested in court. Or if you caught the illness of someone and you could, prove that they gave it to you, could you sue them? I mean, that'd be bloody hard to prove it. So if there were repeat breaches, if there were particular selfish behavior, like, for instance, going to work when you had the virus, then there is the alternative pathway that is, of course, taking you to the magistrate's court, where the maximum penalty that can be applied is $20,000, Mr. Andrews said. So the $20,000 isn't really a fine. It's a court-ordered penalty. We don't want it to come to that. I mean, here's the thing. If you have the illness, and even if you don't feel like you haven't, you feel fine, you shouldn't go to work, at the very least. Because you'll just be spreading what is causing this response. What is causing this lockdown and this economic damage, which is destroying the economy of our country. You're getting pushes and pushes for, radical interventions. There's going to be debt piled upon debt, and we'll have to pay for it one way or another. Future generations will bear the burden of this. Historians will look back and they'll have to ask if it was justified or not. It's hard to see now. It seems very extreme, particularly if you look at the outcomes in other countries. Particularly if you look at the sad truth that a lot of the people that are passing from this have comorbidity issues. And I'll do a video on that next. I want to discuss some of the comorbidity issues that have been identified by the CDC, and some that all of us can do to mitigate ourselves and to at least address those comorbidity issues. Even if you've got 6 weeks in lockdown, there's something you can do. We'll look at that. That's what I want the discussion to be about. It's never mentioned in any of these things. Obesity, high BMI, that is a significant comorbidity issue. Look at the US, guys. They're not a thin, sexy, healthy people, are they? But we can't have that. Oh, they couldn't even mention that in the social justice capital of Australia. Well, that'd be victim blaming, wouldn't it? That would be victim blaming. Damn. Well, what do you think, guys? If there's a way you could reduce your risk, shouldn't that be in the media? Why isn't that never being mentioned here? Why do I have to dig into a CDC website and look at published information about this? Let me know in the comments. Do you think it's to avoid fee-fees? So stay at home means stay at home for all of us. But it certainly means stay at home for those who have the virus and have been directed to isolate. So yeah, I mean, that you've the leaders that are in charge, you voted for them, they've amended the laws, they've given themselves this authority. So, you know, that's what you've handed over to them, guys. You've given them that moral right to restrict people from going around as per their dictate. As everyone will become well aware, there's a $1,652 on-the-spot fine if you breach the directions of the chief health officer. So if you just breach the directions, so if you're outside of your 5 kilometer zone, that's a breach. Would the PSO hand you on the spot fine? If two of you go shopping, there's another breach. Fine, maybe one for each. There's also a $200 penalty for not wearing a mask when you are out of your home. Not too many of those fines have had to be issued, and in the general scheme of things, even the $1,652 fine, that's only used when it's deemed appropriate, and again, the vast majority of people are doing the right thing. You'd hope they wouldn't just start punishing these people. This is a stressful situation that everyone's in. There are going to be some people that just need to get out. Get out of the house and about, do something. You go stir crazy. I feel sorry for the people that are stuck home alone. You'd go nuts. But if you need social interaction, if you need to interact with another person, you've got to remember, social isolation, that's a form of torture, guys. There's people at risk. At least now we have technology so you can interact with people, you can talk to them online, you can call them on video calls, so that can help mitigate it. And I encourage you to reach out to people you know in Victoria, guys. Give them a call, just have a chat, just to see how they're going. Because none of us would want to be in this situation. So it comes as Mr. Andrews said the ADF and authorised officers from the DHHS door-knocked more than 3,000 Victorians who were supposed to be self-isolating yesterday. He said more than 800 households who were supposed to be self-isolating could not be found. Well, there you go. Maybe they're making a run to get out of the state. Maybe that just shows you that trying to control this illness is not going to work. So maybe you need to start preparing for increased numbers so you can mitigate this. This is completely unacceptable. See, here you go. What if they implement all these lockdowns, all these restrictions, and it only takes a few people to get out there, asymptomatic, not realize it, spread it, then it goes spreads, and then boom, you got another cluster. And you won't know until 2 weeks' time. It may have already failed. This is completely unacceptable, Mr. Andrews said. The Premier said there could be a multitude of reasons for why the person was not there. But he'd be tightening up rules about what people who had been directed to self-isolate were allowed to do. For now, there will be no exercise outside if you're supposed to be isolating at home. You'll need to stay in your home or on your property, he said. Well, I hope you could at least exercise in your yard. But isn't there a greater risk of spreading the illness inside than outside? That's why you've got all the air-conditioned countries. Fresh air at the front door, fresh air in your front yard or backyard, or opening a window. The Premier said the decision was made because some people were doing the wrong thing. So we'll have to see. Some people are saying they don't actually have the authority to restrict people this much. It will be interesting to see, to look at the legal precedent, what comes out of this. It's difficult to enforce this if people have a lawful excuse and if some people are going to use that to try and justify other decisions. They were at no point getting exercise, they were doing something else. Well, how do you know? Some people's exercise is just simply going for a walk. I apologize to those who are doing the right thing, but we have simply no choice but to move to that setting. He said in the coming days, there'd be 500 additional ADF personnel and 300 additional officers from the health department. Today, Victoria recorded 439 new cases of the pandemic and 11 deaths, taking the state's total death toll to 147. Now, this may seem quite macabre. For a state that legalizes euthanasia, for a state that, well, I'm assuming you can abort up to term, does this seem like a proportionate reaction to 140 deaths, 150 deaths, guys? Does it seem like a hysteria that's manifesting? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think history will say? We'll have to see. It seems like insane economic damage. And we'll have to see in 2 weeks' time if this makes a difference. Or maybe our fantastic health systems just don't have the capacity to deal with the numbers that they're anticipating. And you'll have a mess where, like in Ireland, people were sent back to aged care homes and just spread like wildfire. The problem is, even just the flu going through or a stomach bug going through an aged care home just decimates people there. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on all of this. Thanks for watching. For those of you in Victoria watching, have a stiff upper lip, guys. You got to keep fighting through. Ring your mates. Chat to them. Give them that human contact. You just have to watch it play out. I might play some Papers, Please, to get the full border experience for New South Wales and Victoria. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. I'll see you next time. If you want to support the channel, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you later.